It's almost scary to see the changes that dating world and relationship dynamics are undergoing. And these are not necessarily positive changes in my observation. I've been a relationship coach for years, and seeing the current shifts are almost heartbreaking. I wonder if you're feeling as confused as many of my clients who come for guidance. So I want to try and give you some clarity and empower you a little bit here. Stay with me till the end of this video, and after, please let me know if this resonates with you. So recently, I hosted a private online event for men only. Different ages, different backgrounds, different relationship histories. But almost every single man described the same problem: confusion. Confusion about what women actually want, confusion about masculinity. I literally have some of my younger male clients asking me what it means to be masculine. Confusion about leadership, confusion about boundaries, confusion about where the line is between love, support, emotional availability, and completely abandoning yourself in a relationship for the sake of the other. And I understand why. Because modern dating has become emotionally chaotic. Many men are afraid to lead because they worry about being perceived controlling. Many women are afraid to soften because they are terrified of being unsafe, disappointed, abandoned, or unseen. So now people enter into relationships already defensive, already hypervigilant, already preparing for betrayal before intimacy even begins. And creating a genuine, solid connection from a place of hypervigilance is pretty much a recipe for disaster. Before I get into the three biggest things I believe are creating confusion in modern dating right now, and I do feel very strongly you must know these three things to have more dating competence. But before, I want to say something very important. This is not a man versus women conversation. I am not interested in creating more division. There are already enough podcasts doing that. What I'm interested in is helping people understand the patterns that are reinforcing loneliness, resentment, emotional exhaustion, and disconnection. Because both men and women are participating in this dynamic and contributing to the division. And if we want healthy relationships, both people have to become more conscious. So let's get into it. Here are the three biggest things I believe are creating confusion in dating and relationships nowadays, and what both men and women can actually do to start changing it. The first thing, men and women are not the same. There is no equality between men and women. And I'm talking about relationship, love, and fulfillment, not anything else. And that matters. This does not mean one is superior. This is not about control. It is not about domination. It's about polarity. What I consistently hear from men is that they deeply crave peace, softness, warmth, emotional receptivity. A woman who allows them to feel needed, appreciated, trusted. And what I consistently hear from women is that they want to feel safe, emotionally safe, psychologically safe, physically safe. They want a man who feels grounded, emotionally stable, decisive, intentional, present. And somewhere along the way, modern dating turned these natural desires into something people are ashamed to admit. Now people are performing roles instead of building connection. Women feel pressure to become hyper independent to survive. emotionally. Men feel pressure to become passive because they are afraid leadership will be interpreted as toxicity. And then attraction disappears because polarity disappears. A healthy woman does not actually want to mother a man, and a healthy man does not want to compete with a woman for a leadership inside the relationship. That dynamic creates exhaustion, not intimacy. Now, here's the practical step. Instead of asking, how do I get someone to like me? Start asking, how do I naturally make another person feel around me? Men, do you create emotional safety, structure, calmness, decisiveness? Women, do you create emotional warmth, receptivity, softness, appreciation? Because attraction is not only physical, it is energetic, it is emotional, it is behavioral. And yes, both people have responsibility here. Now, the second thing creating massive confusion in dating. People are confusing accommodation with love. I see this especially with men. Many men believe that being a good partner means tolerating emotional chaos without boundaries. So, a woman who has not learned to regulate her own emotions dumps every emotional reaction onto him, projects onto him, lashes out, becomes reactive, and he tells himself, well, I'm being supportive. I'm letting her vent, so I'm being a good listener. Nope, that is not emotional leadership. That is self-abandonment. Women absolutely deserve emotional safety, but emotional safety does not mean freedom from accountability. And this is where people get very uncomfortable typically. Because emotional maturity means I am responsible for how I communicate my emotions, not just for having them. We women process emotions differently than men. There's often more emotional intensity, more emotional expression. Plus, we women are constantly impacted by our hormones, and that is not always easy to manage. But emotional expression without self-awareness can very quickly become emotional irresponsibility. And many men right now are terrified to set boundaries because they think boundaries will make them less loving. But boundaries are structure, and structure creates safety. Let me say that again, because this is very important. Structure creates safety. A woman cannot relax into trust with a man who has no emotional backbone. And a man cannot maintain self-respect if he becomes an emotional dumping ground in the relationship. Healthy masculine energy requires assertiveness. Healthy feminine energy requires emotional responsibility and trust. Both require maturity. Now, here is the practical step for this one. For you gentlemen out there, when emotions escalate, stop trying to immediately fix or de-escalate and absorb everything. Slow the conversation down. Keep yourself grounded and calm. Set structure. Put a timeline on her emotional expressiveness. You can literally say, I want to hear you, but let's talk about this in a calmer way so we can actually understand each other. Or you say, I see you're upset and you need to take some things off your chest. How about we give it 10 minutes to allow emotions out, and then we focus on brainstorming together for potential solutions. That is leadership. Now, ladies, listen up. Before expressing emotions that are bubbling up to the surface, ask yourself, am I communicating to create connection, or am I emotionally discharging onto another person? That one question alone can completely change relationship dynamics. Number 3, the third thing creating confusion in modern dating. Both sides are reinforcing unhealthy dynamics while blaming the other side for the outcome. Men reinforce unhealthy dynamics when they avoid difficult conversations, avoid boundaries, over accommodate, avoid leadership because they fear rejection. And women reinforce unhealthy dynamics when independence turns into emotional defensiveness and manipulation, control, hypermasculinity, or the belief that men are optional accessories instead of meaningful partners. And then both sides end up lonely, disconnected, frustrated, resentful. People say they want intimacy, but many people are simultaneously rejecting the exact vulnerability intimacy requires. This is why so many people feel exhausted by dating right now. Because people are trying to protect themselves more than they are trying to connect. But protection without openness eventually becomes isolation. And isolation will convince you that love is impossible. Here's the practical step for this one. Stop approaching dating from the mindset of how do I protect myself from getting hurt, and start asking, how do I become emotionally healthy and resilient enough to create something healthy? That changes everything. Because now dating stops becoming performance, and it stops becoming manipulation or fear management, and it starts becoming intentional connection. And one important thing that I tell my clients all the time is this: a relationship is not built by finding the perfect person. It is built by becoming someone capable of creating trust, emotional safety, accountability, discipline, connection, and consistency. That work belongs to both people, not just men, not just women, both. And I think one of the most dangerous things happening in modern dating right now is that people are becoming more committed to protecting their ego than developing relationship skills. But love is not enough. Love requires skills. Communication is a skill, boundaries are a skill, leadership is a skill, emotional regulation is a skill, vulnerability is a skill. None of this just happens. And if you are struggling right now in dating or relationships, I want you to understand something. You're not broken, but your patterns might be. And patterns can absolutely change if you are willing to become conscious enough to look at them honestly and disciplined enough to do the work required to change them. Transformation is absolutely possible, but not without responsibility. And if you're somebody who genuinely wants to build healthier relationships in which you feel loved and supported, healthier dating dynamics, better communication, fulfilling masculine and feminine balance, then I really invite you to become part of this conversation instead of contributing to the division. Because the dating world does not become healthier through blame. It becomes healthier through individual responsibility. And if you're ready to start doing that work on yourself, you can always reach out to me directly. My booking links are below. Please keep these 3 things I shared with you in mind. Reflect and figure out where and what you can improve to finally create the fulfilling love and connection you so much desire and deserve.